I'd call a meeting to order for Monday, August 17th, 2026. Please rise for the pledge. Alderman Ricky Hammond will lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Father God, we come to you tonight, and we thank you, Father, for all your blessings. And Father, we ask you to lead this board tonight, as always, Father. And Father, we've got many folks in here tonight that are showing that they care about this community as well as we do. And we ask that you guide us tonight, and whatever we do is for the glory and honor of you. We pray for the folks, Father, that are in harm's way. We pray for our elderly, and we ask you just to continue to bless them and bless us all, Father. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Roll call, we have a quorum and can conduct business. Nobody absent tonight. The next item on your agenda is public comment. That doesn't apply to this hearing, but nobody requested to speak on anything else. So the next item on the agenda would be approval of minutes, July 20th, 2026. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So
Motion from Rick Crawford, second from Mr. Baltimore. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Unfinished business? Any unfinished business? All right, under new business, public hearing request from Jason Rudd to appeal a negative recommendation of a rezoning request by the Dyersburg Regional Planning Commission on July 2nd, 2026. Property location is 2227 Lake Road in Dyersburg, Tennessee. That was properly advertised on 7/22/26 about the notice of public hearing. All the aldermen have that information as well as the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting and the original request too from the Planning Commission meeting along with the maps and everything. So at this point, is Mr. Rudd available? Is he here? And if anybody wants to speak, obviously it's a public hearing. I would ask you to come to the front, the microphone, introduce yourself for the city recorder, tell us who you're with or whatever, and we'll do this. Mr. Rudd?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. Just one quick point, and I know the notice references as an appeal, and I think that's semantics, but I do want to point out that it's technically not an appeal because this board, as a legislative body, has to approve or deny any ruling by the planning committee. If we had been recommended by the planning committee, we would still be here tonight or some night doing the same thing. So
that verbiage came from the state of Tennessee Planning Office. That's where we got it from.
Sounds good. So I am happy to go through the proposal I sent you guys. I assume everyone got this, and I hate to take up too much time considering how many people we have. Obviously, you guys are familiar with this proposal from Leaders Credit Union. The property in question at 2227 Lake Road, as I've said in this, it's always been what I refer to as quasi-business, and the more I'm up here tonight, the more you'll hear me use that term. We're not really asking to change the nature of the property. We're asking to change the tenant, the occupant, and just this occupant has to have a different zoning. It will be less intrusive use of the property than what's currently there. It's the least intrusive business zoning that you guys in Dyersburg currently allow. I think that's one maybe misconception from some of the public, because I've heard comments saying, hey, we wish it weren't B1. And B1's actually a limited use zoning. It's a new zoning that you guys approved just in the spring that, according to the state consultant, was designed for parcels like this to go in and have a limited use. And that's what we're asking for. We want to take a property that's currently used as a church, always been a church, and we want to continue to use it as a public facility. This project will benefit Dyersburg. It'll take a property that's been off the tax rolls basically for forever and put it on the tax rolls. It will benefit the city. It'll allow the church to grow and expand. It will bring in jobs. It will bring in significant tax revenue. And as we put in the proposal, You know, the largest concern that we consistently hear, that we heard at the Planning Commission meeting, that we heard that the Planning Commission heard in 2004 when someone tried to rezone it, that they heard in 2008 when someone tried to rezone it, is what does this mean? What's the slippery slope that we're going down? And to protect against that, we're putting a deed restriction in place. Some of you questioned and some other people have questioned is how do we know that commitment is valid? So one of the things we did to address that is we went back with the church and actually amended our contract to make that a condition to close, that will be done at closing. And so that is a contractual obligation, but more important, I mean, it's an obligation that we proposed that early on when we saw the concern, and we're committed to it, and we're planning to honor it. With that, I mean, I'm certainly willing to go into all the detail you want. Based on how the Planning Commission meeting went, I suspect it may be better to hear from other folks, and then maybe if you have questions, let me come back. But I'm willing to do whatever steps, however you guys want to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Rudd? Anybody? Tell us a little bit more about the deed restrictions, if you don't mind.
So what we've put in your packet is a restrictive covenant on the property that would run with the land, that would stay with the land perpetually. And as drafted in this packet, the only way that could ever be changed would be if Dyersburg agreed to change it. So the city of Dyersburg would have the ability to enforce that. The city of Dyersburg would have to approve any change of use beyond what's stated in that deed restriction. I'm trying to get to the exact language that we had in here. It would restrict the property to be used solely for professional office space in the financial or personal professional services sector. For purposes of this declaration, professional office space in the financial or personal service sector means office use associated with banks, credit unions, savings and loans associations, mortgage lending, insurance, investment, advisory services, financial planning, accounting, legal, or other professional services. No use of the property for retail trade, food service, automotive services, entertainment, lodging, industrial purposes, multifamily residential, or any other purpose not expressly identified in this section 1 shall be permitted. The other thing I would add to that is in just an economic aspect of this restrictive covenant. I mean, the restrictive covenant is valid and enforceable, but the economic reality is we're going to have, I would say, when this project is complete, roughly somewhere between $5 to $7 million invested in the property. Economically, it's not a property that someone's going to buy and turn into something negative. It's not going to be that type of property. It's going to be a huge investment for us. And then also practically, I spoke with Todd Swims, the CEO of Leaders today, and asked him in the last 20 years, when's the last time Leaders sold a piece of property? And it hasn't happened. We currently have 2 pieces of property that are for sale. One of them is an old branch in South Fulton, Kentucky, that we acquired through a merger that was not even in operation when we acquired it. So it's not one we've ever used. And then one is a branch next door to a property that we own where we moved from an old branch to a new branch. And obviously we're going to protect that branch because it's next door to us. So you have multiple facets to this that protect what happens next, the restrictive covenant obviously, and also just economic reality of the real estate. I mean, it is protected. And then the other thing that there's been concern about with respect to the restrictive covenant and what happens down the road is, does this open the door to further development of Lake Road? And as I've said in my materials that I've presented for you guys and also that we talked about in the Planning Commission, is it really doesn't. It does not set a binding legal precedent on the city of Dyersburg. Every zoning issue should be heard on its merits. And also, there simply is not a comparable property where someone could come make this exact type of proposal on Lake Road. So the idea that, once we do this, everybody can come and say, hey, you did it there, so you have to do it here, it's just not a valid argument. Any other questions right now?
So go ahead.
The email you sent us from Brian Collins, the planner, what I take from that is legal action between property owners is the only way a restrictive covenant could be enforced through the court system. And it says cities do not enforce restrictive covenants. So the city would not be involved in, the way I read it, enforcing restrictive covenants. It would be between adjacent property owners or property owners there. And once in B1, so what's to say 5, 10 years from now, leaders decides to build a bigger building or something else, and they want to sell this, it's on B1, and B1 allows retail sales, grocery, gasoline service station, restaurants, laundry, anything like that. What's to keep lawyers from trying to change it, remodel the building to change it into something that's allowed in B1 is my question.
Well, two things I would say. With all due respect to Mr. Collins isn't a lawyer, and he made that clear in the Planning Commission meeting. And I recognize his position with the state. But even though, and he may be saying practically cities don't often enforce them, legally the city has every right to enforce a restrictive covenant. The city, I can't speak for specific examples in Dyersburg, but I'm sure there are instances in the city of Dyersburg where you guys have enforced city ordinances on how a certain piece of property can be used, how it can be maintained if somebody's not taking care of their property. The enforcement of property rights is commonplace for most municipalities. Now,
According to the zoning,
sorry.
according to the zoning, that's not based on restrictive covenant.
But the restrictive covenant still gives the city a legal enforceable right. Now, whether the city enforces that, that's no different than if an HOA, most HOAs or most modern HOAs, I should say, have enforceable property rights. Well, if no one in the HOA enforces them, somebody still has to do it. And the city would be in a position to do it. Now, whether they choose to do it or not, kind of comes back, that's what you guys do.
The way I interpreted the restrictive covenant does not abide the city, that the city can enforce zoning, and zoning would allow.
From an ordinance standpoint, the city enforces zoning ordinance. This contractual document.
It's not a zoning ordinance, this is a restrictive covenant.
That is-
A deed. I read it the same way, I'm not a lawyer, but I read it the same way as Brian Collins, the planner.
This would give the city the right to enforce it like any other contract.
So to be clear, Mr. Rudd, I am a lawyer, so I'm gonna ask a lawyerly question. Is what you're offering a contractual clause in the restrictive covenant that would give the city of Dyersburg the right to enforce that contract, that restrictive covenant beyond what we normally could do in a zoning action?
Yes, ma'am. And I would say that even in your zoning ordinance, you guys can impose conditions on zoning approval anyway. So even within the zoning ordinance, you could impose conditions on our approval, I believe, to restrict what you read as the broad B1 if for some reason you don't think our restrictive covenant provides the right protections. But from a legal standpoint, this would be no different than any other contractual right that the city of Dyersburg has with countless other vendors or contract parties that they can enforce their rights.
Was the restrictive covenant discussed in the planning commission, or is this something that's just been added?
No, the restrictive covenant, the concept of the restrictive covenant first came up after and I don't have our exact dates, but we were originally on the planning commission agenda in April or May, and in the staff planning, is that what you guys call it? The staff planning meeting, there was the concern raised by staff of, what do we do about this? What happens if they move? What happens if they sell? And after that, we came back and said, hey, we have an idea for this. We'll give a restrictive covenant to it.
That was after the first planning.
After the first staff meeting, the first planning commission, we actually did not go to the plan. We ultimately postponed the planning until the July 2nd meetings.
What I'm getting at is that was already, that was proposed in the first plan that was denied by the planning commission, is what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay, that's what.
Yes, it was in the first plan.
Any other questions? Anybody? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks. You want to speak? Is that okay for me to ask?
Yes, sir.
Todd Swims, President and CEO of Leaders. It's been a good little while. I've actually been there over 36 years and have enjoyed every minute of it. It's been a privilege. But first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you guys. You all have, you've got a big job ahead of you, and I don't envy that. And there's every person in this room that means an awful lot to us as a business, as leaders, and we appreciate them being here. So whatever happens tonight, I just want to tell you we're going to walk out of here friends, that's for sure. But I wanted to mention a couple things. First, I have had a history here. Actually, I'm from Dyersburg. I was educated here in Dyersburg in 1972. My parents brought us back and went to school here. And I think, Mr. Willie Cole, you actually were an assistant coach or something for me back in the day. I'm 62 years old. It's been a long time ago. But you sort of do look familiar to me. Yeah, but I will
Did you
say,
win? If you won, Willie probably wasn't coaching.
but I will tell you this. Yeah. But actually, from this community, I've actually learned an awful lot, and this community has prepared me for many things and for my life, and it's had a huge impact on me. Because of this history, it really is my privilege not simply to make a business decision to come and to continue to expand our business here in this Dyersburg community, but also to kind of return home and to continue to leave really a lasting impact on this community. We take that very seriously. As Leaders continues to grow and expand its financial services we provide throughout this Dyersburg market, we believe this property represents an opportunity to really make a meaningful and really a responsible investment along Lake Road. We also do recognize that this responsibility extends really way beyond the property. We understand that the importance of being a good neighbor and respecting the character of the surrounding community is awfully important. Also, that's why that we believe that we will be intentional with our approach and the design of this project as well. The proposed development is not intended to really abrupt the transition between really this professional office environment and the surrounding residential property. Instead, what we really do envision is a thoughtful transition that responds to the neighborhood through really an appropriate building scale. When we think about how this building would be constructed on the property, the scale, the setbacks, the landscape, open spaces, and also the site design. As the property transitions towards the residential area, the elements will help soften the presence of an office building and create a more compatible relationship with the surrounding neighborhood. Our objective really is to establish a gradual progression from a more public and active space where this would reside along Lake Road to a quieter, more private residential character that really edges the property itself. We believe this is really responsible development in and of itself, investing in a high-quality facility, utilizing an existing developed property, representing, surrounding, and respecting the neighbors that we have on either side and in front of us to create really a project that can really become a positive part of the community for many, many decades. Leaders Credit has been fortunate to grow because of the trust and the support of people that we serve, and we do not take that trust for granted. When we invest in a community, we really want to invest to reflect the values of that community itself. We do respectfully ask that the board consider this rezoning request not simply to change the land use, but an opportunity for thoughtful, compatible development that brings continued investment, also employment and professional services, and a long-term community partner. I'm really proud to call Dyersburg home. It's always a fun place to come back to and to revisit, and I'm awfully proud to be with you here tonight. And for your time and your consideration for this proposal, I know that this is a big decision. We do respectfully ask for you guys to approve that. I have talked to many people about this here in Dyersburg, and whether this comes out favorably or not, if it did come out favorably, I'll tell you I'll be one of the first people in folks' driveway along Lake Road to make sure that they really do have a part of this plan, to make sure that it really does meet what their expectation is, and for us to make sure that this development is a beautiful thing that could actually, I think, improve really the attractiveness of Lake Road as you enter there. So I do thank you for your time and for your consideration.
One question, Mr. Sims.
Sure.
This will be an additional property to the one you already have?
It will, absolutely. As you all know, we have a retail facility there in front of the Marshalls and that right across from Dyersburg High School. No plans to close that at all. We do own the entire footprint of that building. Our thought was that would help to drive really more drive-through traffic and some of the retail traffic that you often find with a facility, a bank or a credit union. And so our thought was we want to keep that. It's a great investment. We really love it. We do think it's awfully convenient for folks too as well. But for fuller financial services, we need more space. And so we need a bigger footprint for there. And so that would be our plan.
Any chance you'd be moving home?
You never know. You never know. I think everybody, in fact, I think I found a cousin or two in this room actually, and I wasn't expecting so. That does happen in Dyersburg.
Any other questions? Anybody? All right, Todd, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Zach. I'm the pastor of Church Without Walls, and I appreciate you giving me some time to speak to you tonight. At the beginning, I want to read a letter of someone that's on my advisory board, Mr. Jimmy Lanier. He wanted to be here tonight to speak, but he is retired and he travels, it seems like, every week of the year. And so he wrote a letter for me to read, and then after that, if you'll allow me, I'd like to share some of my own thoughts. I'm going to read his letter. He says, "My name is Jimmy Lanier, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the board this evening. Since I'm unable to be present in person, I've asked Pastor Zach to read this statement on my behalf. My wife and I are lifelong residents of Dyer County, and we are thankful to be members of Church Without Walls. We're grateful for the opportunity to come before you tonight because our church has reached a point where we need to expand in order to continue serving our community well. Over the past several years, God has blessed our church with significant growth. We have outgrown our current facility and property, and we are prayerfully pursuing the opportunity to purchase or build a larger facility that will allow us to continue ministering to more people. Pastor Zach is now holding 2 services on Sunday morning because our previous single service is overcrowded. We've also outgrown our parking capacity, and there have been times where people have arrived for worship but left because they could not find a place to park. That actually happens at least once or twice a month. Because of this need, we are preparing to sell our current property, and we have a potential buyer, as you know, Leaders Credit Union. And they're interested in developing the office building described in the information provided to you. For that reason, we respectfully support the request for rezoning. I've personally witnessed the impact that Church Without Walls has had in our community. Before my retirement, I served 12 years as an assistant district attorney and 21 years in the district public defender's office. During those years, I saw many individuals come through our local criminal justice system. I personally prosecuted and defended many of them, and today I have the privilege of seeing some of them same individuals worshiping and growing at our church on Sunday mornings. We believe this opportunity is more than just a building project. It is about allowing our church to continue reaching people, serving families, and making a positive difference in our community. We also understand that decisions like this require careful consideration, and we appreciate the responsibility you have in making the best decision for our community. If the rezoning request is not approved and our church property is sold, the current zoning would allow for multifamily residential development, which is a likely alternative. From the perspective of a neighboring property owner, I believe many would prefer a professional office development with normal business hours and limited traffic patterns compared to a multifamily development that could bring a greater volume of vehicle and pedestrian traffic throughout the day and evening. We believe the proposed office development would be a positive addition to this area and a good fit for the surrounding community. In closing, we respectfully ask for your consideration and approval of this rezoning request. We appreciate your service to our community and the responsibility that you carry in making those decisions. Now, I'll share my heart with you a little bit, if that's okay. As you can see, there's a lot of people in the room, and a lot of them from our church, a lot of them from some other churches that have come to show their support tonight for this. As I just read that letter on Mr. Jimmy's behalf, he shared a lot of the practical reasons behind our request for this rezoning, so I don't want to repeat what he said. You've heard a lot of this already. But I just do want to speak to you for a moment, just from my heart as a pastor. 6 years ago, when we moved into our current property, we had no idea what God was going to do with our church. We weren't thinking about 2 Sunday morning services. We weren't thinking about running out of parking. We weren't thinking about needing a larger facility. We were simply trying to be faithful with what God had placed in front of us. But over these past 6 years, we have watched God bless our church in ways that we didn't dream or imagine. We've watched people come to Christ. We've watched families find hope. We have watched people who were struggling find a church family. And we've seen people who were once walking through the doors at the criminal justice system, sitting in our church worshiping Jesus. I won't do it because I don't want to embarrass them, but many of them are sitting in this room that were once in the criminal justice system, many of them that serve in our churches and are on the worship team and play the drums and do incredible things for the Lord. That's why this decision tonight means so much to us. This property that we're on today has served us well. We're incredibly thankful for it, grateful for what God has given us. But we have reached that point where our facility that God gave us is no longer at a place where we can do what God has called us to do. And we feel like in order for us to grow and continue to reach families in our city and those that caught an addiction in our city, we need a facility. We have so many kids that come, and it's comical. Every week that I preach, we're hearing kids because the classrooms are around the sanctuary. And that's a blessing, but it's also something that is challenging to try to grow a church. And I want to be clear about something tonight to you. We're not asking you guys to build us a church. We're not asking you to give us anything. We're just asking you to give us an opportunity to move forward. A yes tonight allows us to sell our current property, purchase a new property, and begin working towards a facility that can serve our church and our community for many years to come. We love this city, have a heart for this city. There's many places that I could go today and pastor, but I want to be right here. I have no desire to be anywhere else but Dyersburg, Tennessee. I understand the responsibility that each of you have tonight. I know that there are people on both sides that have contacted you and you've had meetings, and I know that you have to consider the future of this area, and you've got to do what's best for Dyersburg, and I respect that, I do. But I truly believe this is an opportunity where what is good for our church can also be good for our community. Having a bank like Leaders on the corner that will serve a lot of people, and also us being able to reach more people than we ever dreamed of in our city. We're not trying to leave Dyersburg. We're trying to make room. We want to continue serving families, continue helping people that are hurting. We want to continue to reach people who may never walk through the doors of a church, hence why we call our church Church Without Walls. And we believe this next step, and I'm almost done, I know this has been a lot, we believe this next step will allow us to do that on a greater level. So tonight, on behalf of my church family, I'm simply asking you to give us the opportunity to take this next step. And if you believe this is the right decision in your heart, I ask you to make the right decision, even if it's a hard decision. I thank you guys for your time. I honor you. Thank you for your service to our city. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach.
So Zach, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir, you can.
Where y'all gonna move to?
So we've got a contract on Community Park Road. It's 8 acres over there past the old First Christian. And that's the plan, is to build a facility there.
How far is that gonna be from?
It's not far. I mean, it's probably, how many miles? 2 miles, 3 miles, not far.
How many?
Just a couple, 2 or 3 miles at most, so not far from there.
Just other side of the fairground.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
How you doing, Mr. Joy?
Yeah. Listen, guys, I want to start off by saying this. Clearly, I'm not a politician. not old enough to be one. I'm used to speaking in front of students, not powerful men like you all and women. And so I want to start off by saying good evening to all of you. If you don't know me, my name is Daniel Gates. I am the family pastor at Church Without Walls. Before I became family pastor at Church Without Walls, I served as the prevention educator for Life Choices Dyersburg. What that means is I went into schools and I built relationships with students. I talked to students. I tried to point them into a direction of better living. The idea of Life Choices, me being a prevention educator, is this: if you know better, you do better. But while going into the schools, I learned something. I began to see the struggles that students faced. I began to see the need for someone to pour into them while at the schools. Because not everyone has someone at home teaching them right. Not everyone has someone pointing them in the right direction. Now, as family pastor at Church Without Walls, I'm involved in ministry with the young adults and the youth. And while doing that, it's extremely special to me because I get to do life with these students. When I was at Life Choices, I just went there one time a year, and then I wouldn't see them again until the next year. But now I get to see these students. I get to be with these students. I get to disciple the students. And I get to think about when I moved to Dyersburg, which was not too long ago. I'm only 26 years old. But it was about middle school when I moved to Dyersburg, and one of the first influential people in my life that I met when I moved here was Mayor John Holden. He took me around Dyersburg. He introduced me to people. He gave me that opportunity to grow, to see something and be something that I didn't know that I could be. And for that, I thank you, Mayor. When I first moved here, one of the biggest things in my life was church. And I didn't realize growing up how important it was. Matter of fact, one of the churches that I found myself going to often, one thing that drew me to them was that a lot of other students went there. And the reason why they went is because they said it would be cool. And we would go and we would have a good time. What we didn't know is that we were going to learn about Jesus. What we didn't know is that we were going to encounter Jesus. And I believe that changed my life forever. And at that church that I attended, there was a lot of youth there. There was a lot of people there, and I just think about the impact that had on my life and the direction that took me. And that's the same thing that we want to do at Church Without Walls. We want to pour into the older generation, but my job is not to pour into the older generation. It's to pour into the future. And we've been doing that, and we want to continue to do that, but we want to do that on a greater scale. Now, I know you all have a decision to make, and a decision I've never had to make like this before, but I know one thing, a decision that I want to make. I want to make a decision that changes lives around me for the better. I love the city of Dyersburg. This is our city. And I believe that if we have students that are learning what is right, that have people in their life that's pouring into them, it changes everything for the city of Dyersburg. And by you all permitting this rezoning, that gives us the opportunity to do this on a greater scale. And so I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank you all for this this night and the responsibility that you all carry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is John Baker. I live at 2200 Lake Road, almost directly across from the church property. I'm here with several of our nearby residents and property owners, and we respectfully oppose the request to rezone 2227 Lake Road from R2 residential to planned business. Our opposition is based on several important concerns that affect the surrounding neighborhood and the long-term planning goals for this Lake Road corridor. The surrounding area has historically been residential. Rezoning this property to planned business would introduce commercial zoning into an established residential corridor and would negatively impact the character and stability of the neighborhood. There was a similar rezoning request at this same property represented to the Planning Commission that was denied in 2004. The same concerns in 2004 that justified denial are still valid today, including its compatibility with surrounding residential uses and the importance of maintaining consistent zoning practices. Approving a business zoning classification in the middle of a residentially zoned property could cause concerns about spot zoning and create long-term planning problems. This weakens confidence in the city zoning process. This potential problem around spot zoning was suggested by the state planner in the 2004 meeting, and nothing has changed. Lake Road already experiences significant traffic volume. Adding this new commercial activity may increase traffic congestion and safety concerns for nearby residents. We are concerned that commercial rezoning could negatively affect nearby residential property values and reduce neighborhood stability for families who have already invested in the area expecting residential protections to remain in place. We respectively ask the board to follow the long-term planning guidance already established for this corridor that was put in place by this board and the Planning Commission. This is not opposition to a business or organization. It is about protecting the existing residential character of the neighborhood. It appears there's a good number of congregants from the church here tonight, and it is good that they have come together for a common goal. They've spoke very well about the church, and I believe it all to be true. However, if they win their bid tonight, they're leaving. They are moving. We, the residents, live here and will face the future consequences of your vote tonight. Please vote to preserve the beauty and integrity of one of the most traveled streets in Dyersburg. We ask that the Board of Mayor and Alderman deny the rezoning request for 2227 Lake Road and preserve the integrity of the surrounding residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Sure.
I'm Mayor Quick. Most of y'all know it, Dyer County Mayor, and I attend Church Without Walls. Wonderful church. I'm listening to leaders' proposal of being very friendly to the community and the restricted zoning that could go along with that. And I understand the residents, you know, back there that have their concerns as well. But in my opinion, what I've been listening to with a growing church as we have, and it is growing, it's a wonderful church. You know, we may move to 3 services, maybe more days a week than just Sunday, Tuesday night, and other times of the week. We're congesting Lake Road ourselves. You know, it's a huge congestion on Sundays. I've been asked to work on walkways, work on that congested area, you know. So, you know, I think you could take in a consideration that with leaders' friendly opposition that they're bringing to the community and our growth that we're having, the growth rate, I think leaders would less congest Lake Road than we would. And, you know, I think that would be a good thing, good reason for us to move out and move to Community Park Road. And I ask y'all to consider that. Appreciate every one of you. You know, I know how you're in the hot seat. Been there myself. And appreciate you guys. And, you know, we appreciate every one of you and what you do tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else wish to speak? Any questions of the board for anybody?
I do. Mr. Baker, I was just gonna ask, Mr. Baker, were you speaking for all the neighbors in your?
I have not spoken to all the neighbors on
No.
Lake Road, no.
I was just asking, were you speaking for all?
Yes, a number of the residents that live around me and up the street, yes.
Yes, sir.
Jason?
Just briefly, I just want to follow up on one topic that Mr. Baker brought up with respect to spot zoning. And I know that's come up multiple times in multiple conversations that I've had with, in the planning committee, in some of the staff planning sessions, and I talk about it in the materials that I provided to you, but I do just want to go back on that. I think that there is a misunderstanding of what spot zoning is, and I just want to make that real clear, that this is not illegal spot zoning. And quite frankly, spot zoning is not illegal. Spot zoning is a judicial doctrine where someone comes in and challenges a zoning decision by this body. And the courts in Tennessee give extreme deference to you guys as a legislative body to make zoning decisions. If you go back and look at judicial history in Tennessee, as best I can find, in the last 40 years, there's only been one case that's reported. Actually, it wasn't even a reported case, a Court of Appeals case where they overturned a zoning decision based on spot zoning. But when you read that case, it actually wasn't even a spot zoning case. In that particular case, a planning commission had rezoned a parcel of property, but they rezoned it to a zoning designation that did not even exist in their current planning guidance. They made up a new planning division to make that fit, and the judge at the trial court level actually found it to be arbitrary and capricious, which is the language, the magic words, but still did not overturn the spot zoning. So when it went on the Court of Appeals did come back and say, no, the judge basically found everything wrong. They made up a zoning requirement that didn't already exist, and so that was illegal zoning. But it was more of they exceeded their authority than actual spot zoning. In this case, spot zoning, it doesn't fit. This case, this property, clearly it fits within the plan, according to the state planner. The plan that you guys adopted in the spring allowed for this exact type of zoning in this exact type of property, a transitional type space. And this property, it benefits the community. You've heard people say, come up and speak, this property, the rezoning here has tremendous benefits for the city of Dyersburg, for the residents, for all the residents of Dyersburg. And there are certainly some residents nearby that aren't as thrilled with it. But overall, for the city, this is a great project. It's a good project for the community to grow, for the community to expand taxes, for the community to expand jobs. And that in and of itself defeats any spot zoning argument.
Jason, your conversation with the folks that live there, tell us about that. Conversations with neighbors. Did y'all meet with neighbors? And
I met with some neighbors individually. I think I included kind of my notes on that in my packet. Obviously, some neighbors were, the neighbors that I spoke with, some were not for it and some were ambivalent, quite frankly. I would say the majority were. As I mentioned in my packet, I did speak once, possibly twice, I think once directly with the Kaufmans, and certainly they're opposed to it. They, the Kaufmans are in a unique position to the other neighbors, I believe. The Kaufmans actually are next door to the property. They have a unique perspective. They have, they're in a unique position, and I understand and respect their concerns. As I told the Kaufmans the one day I met them, is if this gets approved, even if you're not for it, we're gonna sit down with you guys and meet with you and try to come up with a plan as far as to make sure they're comfortable with the buffer, that they're make sure they're comfortable with everything we do between our building and their house. And when you look at that land, there should be plenty of space to do some really nice stuff right there. The other neighbors that I spoke to, as I mentioned, most of them weren't concerned. I can't think of the one that was John Baker, I don't think I spoke to John Baker directly. I believe that someone with Leaders spoke, so I knew Mr. Baker was opposed to it, but not from my direct interaction with him. And then the other who was the most opposed to it was Dr. Lewis, McGolgan, I'm not sure how you say his name. McGolgan, okay. Dr. McGolgan certainly was opposed to it. Now, he did tell me that he was opposed to the rezoning. He was not so much opposed to the project. He thought, when we spoke on the phone, my understanding from speaking with him was he thought the project was decent. He just did not want property rezoned right there. He said if it could be done in the current zoning, that he could live with it. But again, that was a one-time conversation. I emailed him some of the materials that we sent to the other neighbors, and I never heard back from him after that.
So, and I'm sorry to be so long. I appreciate everybody here. Tell me again about the restricted covenant and the enforceability, and if the Kaufmans move or something else happens. Who's involved in the restricted covenant? How many families can get involved in that? Tell me how that's going to work.
As it's drafted in this package that I sent to you guys, the restricted covenant, there are no other families involved in it. The restricted covenant is the city of Dyersburg. So the way that it would work would be if someone came in and, for lack of a better, I guess, example, because it's one everybody says a lot, put a vape shop in there. I mean, the city could enforce that. The city could come in and issue an injunction, issue a cease and desist and go get an injunction on that use of the property. Now, what would likely happen is that individual residents would come to you guys and say, hey, this is a problem, and at some point the city would have to step in. No different than what you guys have done in the past with, adult-oriented business zoning. I mean, even though that's not a contract, it's the same concept. Someone has to step up and enforce it.
How can the city enforce it when the zoning would allow this? It's zoned that way. The restrictive covenant, the way I look at it, is between two adjacent.
Well, no, a restrictive covenant, if I own a piece of property.
I've seen restrictive covenants in old deeds that are no longer enforceable because the times have changed.
Yeah, if I own a piece of property, I can put a covenant on that property, and I can make anyone I would like the beneficiary of that covenant.
We want to get involved in trying to enforce something like that when we already have the zoning.
I guess
the church does good work. There's no question about that, and I think leaders would build a nice building. But our job, the way I see it, is to protect the other people in the area. The way it was zoned before. The Church Without Walls bought it zoned R2. They're free to sell it as R2. I mean, nobody stopped it.
There's no question about that. Now, I would point out that the Church Without Walls had it listed for sale as R2 for 18 months to 2 years and didn't have anyone interested.
But the zoning hasn't changed the subject or the adjacent properties.
That's correct. I think the concern that you guys have to look at and have to think about, and I would even say that the neighbors have to look at and think about, and I know they may disagree with my assessment of it, but that property being zoned R2, the highest and best use for that property is multifamily residential.
And I realize that, and I know I don't know that I'd want our multifamily there, but as long as the neighbors need to be protected, they were there.
Well, and I guess I believe this better protects the neighbors than leaving it as R2.
The church is moving. They're wanting to get more money, and I can see that. And they do good work. There's no question about that. But the way I look at it, the city has to look at protecting the neighbors. If the neighbors were all for it, I'd be open to it.
I think the city definitely has to take into account the neighbors. I think the city has to look at the city as a whole, not just one street, and how it affects the city as a whole. But looking at the neighbors, I still think the city has to look at, and obviously I'm biased, but this is protecting the neighbors. This is protecting the neighbors better than the church moving and having a 50-year-old abandoned property sitting there that's fallen apart. The Church Without Walls has done an amazing job keeping that property up, but if you go in it, you see water stains on the tile ceilings. You see things that at some point the Church Without Walls, and I don't know what point they do, I'm not on their leadership committee, but based on what I know they have in the property now, as someone involved pretty heavily in real estate, I would tell them if it's zoned R2, I wouldn't put any more money in it because you're going to be stuck. And so that property is going to end up sitting empty. Someone else is going to buy it, and it's going to end up being a multifamily property that likely mirrors the property that's behind it. If you look at that property behind it, you rotate that property 180 degrees.
Right there on Lake Road either,
But you can't stop that. That property can rotate and fit there.
they don't want it.
And I agree. I wouldn't want it either. Under the current zoning, you can't stop it. This protects that from happening because now you have permanently restricted the use of that property for professional office space.
To B1, what's to say 5-10 years down the road that the zoning allows a convenience store, a service station there?
Again, that's where the restrictive covenant.
Restrictive covenant. What if we can't enforce the restrictive covenant at that time? That's the reason we have the zoning, the way I look at it. Okay.
Mr. Rudd, when you put down the restrictive covenant, that will be as of record, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that anyone that's doing a title search to buy property there, to buy that property, will be on notice that restrictive covenant is there.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're on notice that if they buy it and they don't conform to the restrictive covenant, they may be facing litigation.
Yes, ma'am.
How long you been practicing real estate law?
Well, I've been practicing law for 27 years.
So during your 27 years of practice, have you ever seen anybody purchase something knowing that they were purchasing litigation?
No.
What'd you say, Vanetta? I didn't hear you.
I'm asking him that during his 27 years of practicing law, have you ever seen anyone purchase property with something on the title that's going to require litigation? Nobody purchases property to go into litigation.
Well, and to go one step further, anyone purchasing that property that was going to borrow money would not be able to get title insurance for it unless they were putting a professional office space on it, because the title insurer would not write over that restrictive covenant unless the city released it or unless they felt comfortable that the use would conform. I mean, the restrictive covenant, and that's a question, I mean, certainly for the city's attorney. And I tried to reach out to the city's attorney to see if he was interested in speaking about this, and he said that he had not been engaged to look at this point. So, I mean, all I can tell you is, as a lawyer, I am confident that it is enforceable. If 10 years from now leaders tried to sell that to a retail center, I would know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I represented the city or anyone trying to enforce it, that we could stop it.
Mayor? I got a question for both of y'all. Okay, we're talking about this restrictive covenant. Would that will be on the title?
Yes, sir.
Would that be like an easement that goes with the property?
Yes, it would go with the property. Now, obviously, a covenant's different than an easement, but it would go with the property. Yes, it would run with the land.
And I've talked to several people on this, and I know they're up here to check and see if we can go and make a new zoning from R2 to B1. If we
Yes.
leave it at R2, you can have single-family dwellings, manufactured residential dwellings, which they come in on a couple of pieces, like they call it a manufactured home, just, I guess, a glorified trailer. Two-family dwellings or duplexes, townhouse dwellings, multifamily dwellings that could also have home occupations in them, and home daycare. The problem is if somebody buys this for an investment, they don't have to come before the planning commission or this board. All they have to do is go before the planning commission with their plans.
Correct.
I mean,
Now-
because it's already R2.
Yes, and I agree with you.
It's allowed in that, so there would never be another hearing on it if everybody didn't like the townhouses and maybe, distressed, income off, lower income housing. But, it's already zoned for that.
Yes, that's correct. The only thing I would temper that slightly on is I believe in the R2 designation, the manufactured housing, it wouldn't allow trailers. So,
Well, no, it
but
wouldn't,
does,
but-
but it's defined. So it's not, but it does allow manufactured housing.
Yeah, it's defined as a manufactured dwelling, a structure transportable in one or more sections which may be be built on a permanent chassis and designed to be used as a single-family dwelling with or without permanent foundation when connected to required utilities. That's what's in the zoning. But that's my problem, and I know some other people have worried about that the way it's set now, that, there's no discussion. It's set up for that. And if somebody buys it tomorrow, and they get their plans and everything, they bring it before the planning commission, and it's a done deal, as long as it passes that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was my question.
Can I ask a question? How many of the church members are here tonight? Will y'all raise your hand?
Goodness. Looks like they've got a good problem there. They've outgrown their campus.
All right, any other questions of Josh? Of
Can I
Jason?
ask Pastor Zach a question? Is there anybody else interested in your property?
No, sir, we've never had a single person interested in buying our property, never. It's not a big market, people aren't, it's a sad thing, but churches aren't growing today, and it's sad, but no, sir.
Thank you.
And one last follow-up from circling back to the 2004 and 2008 rezoning request, which I mentioned in my packet that I sent you guys. Those requests were actually, in my opinion, much different than this request. The first request in 2004 was when one of the Churches of Christ, Lake Road Church of Christ, was on that property, and as they were getting ready to move, Lee Hastings was their realtor, and Lee came before the committee to try to get it rezoned. At that time, they did not have a definitive use for the property. The anticipated buyer was a convenience store. I've spoken with Lee about it. I've known Lee for a very long time. It was just a blanket, can we rezone this to a commercial business use? The second one in 2008 was another church that was a little bit unique in that the church, the pastor of the church owned the real estate that the church used, and the pastor was looking to get it rezoned because based on his interpretation of the zoning, he needed a business designation in order for the church to use that property for weddings and catered events and things like that. And according to the State Gazette article that referenced that zoning meeting, during the planning committee's review, the state planner essentially said you don't really need to rezone it for that, that as a church can still have weddings and a church can still have catered events and things like that. And the zoning was unnecessary and then so it was not approved. So they are very different in that this one has a specified use, a restricted use that fits what's already there. It's a known commodity. And I know we can say it 100 times, and until it happens, people will be skeptical and be worried and be nervous. But, I've known leaders for a long, long time. I've known Todd for a long, long time. My brother's the CFO of Leaders. Leaders Credit Union is a good neighbor. They're a good neighbor. They're a good member of the community. They, go look around anywhere where there's Leaders Credit Union, and every event that's in that city is sponsored by Leaders Credit Union. I mean, Leaders Credit Union is a good neighbor and a good asset to Dyersburg. And we respectfully ask you guys to approve this.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Anybody else wish to speak? Any more questions? All right, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, good deal. Long day, it's Monday. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we grant the rezoning request.
Okay, got a motion to grant the rezoning request. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dennis? All right, have a motion to grant the rezoning request and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Hey,
Roll call.
Yep. All right. Call the roll, Mr. Recorder.
All right. So a yes is supporting rezoning. Mr. Baltimore?
Yes is
Yes
for
is
rezoning.
for
Okay.
rezoning. Mr. Baltimore?
I'll be last. No, let me just say this. I'm gonna move forward.
Okay.
But I wanna say this, that's my district. I have respect for the persons that's against it and the ones that have it. I talked with Brother Zach. I talked to several of them. Some were against it, some was for it. And what convinced me about a week ago, I was plowing around on my tractor up on my lot, up there getting ready to put a garden in, and it was on my mind. My tractor turned over on me. I'm supposed to be dead right today. But I thank God he allowed me to be able to be here to witness this today. And the young man back there in the back, I don't know who you are. You convinced my vote 3 months ago, but I got back there. So I'm saying yes.
Alderman Burks?
There's no question the church does good work, and I think leaders will be a good neighbor, but I look at our job is to protect the neighbors that are still gonna be there, so I'm
Cool. Mr. Crawford?
I'd like to make a few remarks. First of all, I value my relationship with all of you in this room that I know, and I know several of you. And my vote tonight will not change I hope, my relationship with you at all. I know there's pros and cons on both sides of this issue. And that's what we've got to decide tonight is what this city is all about. And I would say then that we have a planning commission for a reason, and we have codes for a reason. We have zones for a reason, and as I've looked at this, I want to say that I appreciate all the efforts of both sides of this issue. I appreciate leaders. I think leaders is good for the city of Dyersburg. They've been a good addition. I know they're involved in a lot of things in our city, and certainly we appreciate that. And I'll be honest with you, I've spent more hours on this getting ready for this meeting than probably all the other meetings we've had in the 4 years that I've been on this board. I've spent hours talking with, meeting with, visiting with the residents in that community that surrounds this property. I've spent a lot of time on the phone with some of you all and in visits with leaders and myself. And I would hope that you understand that this board doesn't take this lightly. Every issue that comes before this board, we take it very seriously. And having said that, I want to share just some of my thoughts about and concerns about this rezoning question we've got before us. First of all, I understand that the comprehensive plan that was drawn up a few years ago has stated that the north side of Highway 51 in this area in question is zoned for business, while the south side of the bypass would remain residential. I also feel that those that are opposed to the rezoning of this property could make an argument that it is spot zoning. Again, all the property north of the bypass is zoned for business. The property south of the bypass, both on the east and the west side of Lake Road, are zoned residential. My question for all of us tonight is, do we really want to put a B1 zone right in the middle of a residential zone? Spot zoning, as I understand it, defined in the state of Tennessee, is that it's considered spot zoning if the primary result is a special privilege or financial boost for one owner. If that could be proven, then it would be indefensible in a court of law. I don't want the city drawn into any courts of law any more than we already have to. The Tennessee Appeals Court, in a case of Fielding versus Metropolitan Government of Lynchburg on January 31st, 2012, in this case, and this is just a definition, another definition of spot zoning in that case there, provided that spot zoning occurs where the government illegally singles out a small portion of land and classifies it differently from the surrounding properties for the sole benefit of the subject landowner and to the detriment of the surrounding owners. As far as restrictive covenants, my neighborhood that I live in has restrictive covenants called neighborhood covenants. They're on file in the courthouse. They're legal documents. The person that was policing that for us has been deceased for several years now. The only way that we get any relief for the violations of that covenant is through the court system. And you know how expensive that is. And so the neighbors, even though we've got some violators, I've got some right in front of me that I see every day that violate that covenant. And there's nothing we can do about it other than get an attorney and take them to court. I don't want the city being involved in that kind of thing anymore, as I said, than we have to. I believe that if we vote to rezone this parcel, it would be very hard for us in the future to deny anyone on Lake Road the same thing. If they wanted to rezone their property, and we could just stick a B1 right in the middle of a residential area. As an alderman for the city of Dyersburg, my sole intent has always been to serve the citizens of this city impartially and to be a voice for all the residents of this city. Every resident that I've been able to talk to who are affected directly by the rezoning of this parcel has indicated to me that they are opposed to the rezoning this to B1. The comprehensive plan seems to favor denial of the request to rezone. As a matter of fact, the commission did. They refused to rezone this property twice before. It's already been stated in here tonight. And so for that reason, and the reason stated above, I've got to vote to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Alderman Hammond.
I'm gonna reiterate a lot what Rick said without going back into detail. I know a bunch of people in this room, known them all my life. There's, great people in this room. And I've talked to people on both sides like all of us have. I know that Leaders Federal has a backup plan. Anybody would in their position. And the God I serve will take care of the church. He will do that. But I cannot vote. Neighbors, traffic, and I know Mayor Quick made a good point, but we're talking about traffic for 1 or 2 days where we would have traffic out there at least 5 days a week. And that's a big concern. And a lot of people in this room have voiced their concern about the traffic out there. And they do it on social media every day. And to me, that I just can't vote for rezoning.
Alderman Harrison.
To the students that hollered Mr. Joey when I walked in, other than what you witness in church, this is the greatest thing you'll ever see. Government in action. It's amazing. You get to hear both sides. You get to hear the pros and the cons. You get to hear it all. It's the greatest thing you'll ever see except for what you see on Sunday. Remember that. With that being said, we have a planning commission for a reason. They make the decision first. I go with the planning commission.
Alderman Moody.
I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I'm not running for re-election. After 33 years, I've had all the fun I can handle. But, I know it's two sides to every story, but, from what I've read, and I'm like somebody said they've studied on this more than they have anything else, but I've studied more. When I was first elected in 1989, they were trying to make Lake Road 5 lanes. And man, you talking about hit the ceiling. I had a telephone that just didn't quit ringing. And I voted against it, and it didn't pass. And then when everybody was re-educated and everything, what it was really gonna look like and everything, it passed, and I don't see how we could go back to 2 lanes on Lake Road. But I'm gonna vote yes for it. Thank you.
Alderwoman Webb,
My vote is yes.
Mayor Holden.
I appreciate everybody coming here tonight. Obviously, I serve on the planning commission as well. I agree with what all's been said. I voted against it in the planning commission for the reasons that Rick laid out. I won't repeat them. It's my concern for the neighbors that live there. Obviously, we love everybody in Dyersburg, and certainly this is a tough decision, probably one of the toughest ones I've had to deal with in 20 years, to be honest with you. But I voted no in the planning commission for the restricted covenant issue, like Rick mentioned, also for the spot zoning issue as well, and the neighbors that I have spoken with that are opposed to it as well. So that would be no, Mr. Recorder.
The noes carry, motion failed.
All right, thank you. Next item of business, Resolution 08172026, a resolution authorizing the City of Dyersburg, Tennessee to participate in the Property Conservation Matching Grant Program. That's in your packet. Let me get to it. Resolution 08172026, resolution authorizing the City of Dyersburg to participate in the Property Conservation Matching Program. We've done this before. It's a grant that we use to get reimbursed for things that we have done. I'd entertain a motion to approve this.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Coach Cole. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Resolution 08172026A, a resolution authorizing and approving execution of an equipment lease purchase agreement with Bank OZK for the purpose of lease purchasing certain equipment.
I can't hear you.
Okay,
Do they do this in church?
sure, yeah, all right, I'm sorry.
You don't like the sermon in church, you get up and walk out. And disturb everybody. Well, I can see that.
It's hard vote for all of us.
Maybe we can hear you now.
We good? Dennis, you good?
Good, we hear.
All right, so resolution, item C, we passed item B. Item C, resolution 08172026A, resolution authorizing and approving execution of equipment lease, purchase agreement with Bank OZK for the purpose of lease purchasing certain equipment. That's also in your packet as well. I think we approved this in the Budget Committee. Is that right? This is just a formality to do that.
Just a garbage truck.
Yes, sir. Exhibit A, Durapack 28-yard ASL Freightliner chassis. That's for the one for the, yeah, that's it. All right, yeah, we have approved this. It's just allowing me to sign the paperwork. Entertain a motion to approve this? Motion from Coach Cole, second from Edward. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, bids. Debbie Harris. We have 4 bids tonight. All were approved in the budgeting process. Pest control services for all departments. Number 2, zero-turn lawnmower for the cemetery. Number 3, airport. Change out 19 light fixtures to LED floodlights. That was budgeted through repairs and maintenance. And then the last one, Emergency Operations Command, was also budgeted for capital outlay. Any questions about any of this? All right, hearing none. Next item on the agenda, report from Alderman, Mr. Baltimore. Edward?
How's Elm Avenue going?
Bricks are removed, and when we got the bricks up, we found concrete slab under that, so we're taking that out.
Gotta take that out too.
Yeah, but, yeah, we can't get the full profile of the road without it, but, so, it slows it down a little bit, because when we take that concrete out, we gotta come right behind it with a gravel.
Bricks available for public.
They're at Public Works, yes, sir. Science, several people have come got them, but, it's going good. Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I was hoping to finish it this week, probably be next week.
I got a call from Florida opposed to it.
They ain't broke out it.
Gotta run to the restroom.
Go ahead.
Don't run.
Coach Cole? Coach Cole?
Yeah, Scott, Mayor, who's responsible for removal of a down utility pole that was knocked down during a traffic accident?
Dyersburg Electric?
Is it Dyersburg electric pole or is it?
Unless it's the telephone pole.
It's a utility pole, I don't,
Well,
It's a telephone pole.
there's two different ones, what
Yeah,
I'm
I know what
saying,
you- I know
in
what you
parts
mean.
of town, some of it's Dyersburg Electric, some of it's Bell South. If you see a lot of the electric poles that they've replaced and there's a half a pole, that's because the phone company and the, cable TV and others, they take their sweet time coming to play, so that's the reason it's there for several years.
how do we get in contact with the, cable TV?
It would be a telephone pole. Well,
Okay,
It could be a power pole.
get a number off the bottom of the pole and call Dyersburg Electric and ask them if that's their pole.
okay, I know about that, but I don't think it's one that, the lady called me and said there was an accident on Fair Street a couple of weeks ago. The electric department removed one pole, but when they removed that pole, another pole fell down, and they put it in her driveway and said she was responsible for it. So I'm just trying to run down who we need to contact.
But there should be a number on that pole, and that'll tell whose it is.
Okay, it's, 612 Fair Street? Okay,
About middle ways down Fair Street.
thank you, that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Power poles are,
Yeah.
that belong to a Dyersburg Electric are leased, spaces leased on those poles to any other entity that wants to use them.
But they don't wanna come get them.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Rick?
I just want to say, I know everybody on this board has spent, untold hours probably, rolling this thing around in their minds the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate that. I know it's kept me up, woke me up at 2:30 the other morning, never got back to sleep. And I know it's not to be taken lightly. Obviously, these are good people, and, from both sides. And we just, I appreciate y'all doing what was in your heart.
They've been on my doorstep.
Thank you. Ricky?
Yeah, two things, Mayor. I hadn't seen us approve a invoice for, attorneys. We hadn't done that in a long time, have we? I mean, isn't that a monthly deal? Or only when we use them? So we hadn't, that's a good thing, if we're not.
Yeah.
No, that'd be all right. Public Works, I'm sure they do, they have early hours now?
They're working 6 to 2:30.
Good,
Been doing that for several weeks.
okay. That's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you. Joey?
No report.
Dennis? Vanetta?
Just wanted to shout out to our DPD. Last week, there was a fundraising event for one of the county football programs. Our folks showed up at the Sonic or at the restaurant and interacted well with those young men, both our male and female officers. Just was a good community building moment, and it was nice to see that we came together as a community to support kids. It was good.
All right, thank you. We're adjourned.
Back to blue.